Hardeep Singh Puri, Perilous Interventions, the Security Council and the Politics of Chaos. Explore the complex world of international diplomacy and geopolitical decision-making in Perilous Interventions, the Security Council and the Politics of Chaos by Hardeep Singh Puri. Dive into the challenges and consequences of the United Nations Security Council's interventions and the controversial responsibility to protect doctrine. The book scrutinizes specific examples, such as the 2003 invasion of Iraq, the Arab Spring, and the Libyan crisis, to reveal how these interventions have often led to further chaos and bloodshed. The examination of each case provides insight into the failures, miscalculations, and unforeseen consequences of these actions, raising questions about the effectiveness of military force and foreign interventions as a means of maintaining global stability.
The responsibility to protect. The responsibility to protect, R2P, doctrine was adopted by the international community following the genocides in Rwanda and Srebrenica in the 1990s. R2P calls on nations to protect their citizens from mass atrocities and allows for foreign intervention in cases where the state is unable to do so. However, the implementation of R2P remains unclear, as evidenced by the United Nations Security Council's uneven responses to various threats over the years. The UNSC has authorized interventions in the name of protecting civilians, but these actions often result in chaos and bloodshed, leading to the question of whether societies can be reordered from outside using military force. Perilous Intervention. The book sheds light on the aftermath of the United Nations Security Council's, UNSC, resolutions of force. The invasion of already volatile nations leads to the loss of human lives, stunts human rights and pro-democracy efforts, and causes mass ecological and infrastructure damage. Policymakers' miscalculations in decisions with far-reaching consequences often reverberate for years. The case of the 2003 invasion of Iraq intensified the region's age-old Sunni-Shia conflict, unleashed anti-Western sentiment, and made extremist groups like ISIS more appealing. The West's profound misunderstanding of the socio-political undercurrents within Iraq caused more harm than good. In conclusion, the UNSC's perilous interventions highlight policymakers' whimsical and reflexive decision-making, with dire consequences. The Arab Spring, a misunderstood revolution. The Arab Spring protests began with hopes of bringing democracy to nations long under authoritarian rule. However, Western support was met with mistrust, and the movements eventually led to further repression. The West failed to understand the true goals of the protests and misread the situation, resulting in costly interventions and unintended consequences. Misinterpreting Gaddafi. A critical look at the Western narrative of Gaddafi's downfall and regime change in Libya. Libya's former leader, Muammar Gaddafi, was widely perceived as a brutal dictator who would stop at nothing to crush his opponents. However, a 2012 survey revealed that most Libyans preferred one-man rule due to the free healthcare and economic prosperity enjoyed under his leadership. Following Gaddafi's attack on peaceful protesters, the United Nations Security Council approved military intervention at the urging of France and New Zealand. The United States was initially hesitant about military action, but quickly changed its mind after Secretary of State Hillary Clinton likened the situation to Rwanda. Media reports in Western capitals inflamed the situation further, portraying Gaddafi as an unhinged madman using state weapons on overmatched freedom fighters. However, a careful analysis of his speeches indicates that Gaddafi did not plan a genocide of his own people. The Western powers chose to interpret his words as a warning of imminent bloodshed, and Libya descended into chaos. Private armies and militias sprang up after Gaddafi's death, plunging the country into further violence. In hindsight, the decision to authorize military force and regime change in Libya was a mistake. The political tension in Syria. The Syrian conflict led to the death of 470,000 people and forced over 10 million others to flee the country. Despite this, the UNSC chose not to intervene due to the complex situation, where Sunni majority was controlled by Shia and Christian minorities. The West armed anti-Assad rebels, and Russian forces bombed them, leading to political tension between the US and Russia. The West's actions were justified due to Assad's atrocities against civilians. However, Russia claimed that Assad was the lawful leader and that his removal would result in ISIS's control of the region. The military intervention by Russia added a layer of uncertainty to the possibility of a political resolution. Yemen's tragic history. Yemen, a nation of internal division, faced one of its worst crises when the Houthi movement began in 2004. Saudi Arabia, with the backing of the United States, intervened militarily in 2015, claiming the Houthis were an Iranian proxy force. However, the Houthis have been present in Yemen long before any Iranian involvement. The Saudi-led intervention resulted in the deployment of illegal weapons that killed Yemenis, including civilians, and blocked humanitarian aid to a nation facing severe food and water shortages. Despite the disapproval of the international community, foreign involvement continued, leading to the bombing of a Médecins Sans Frontières (MSF) hospital. The intervention created more instability in Yemen, with al-Qaeda gaining a foothold and posing a greater threat. Yemen's tragic history reflects the dangers of foreign meddling in internal conflicts. Crimean Peninsula, the UNSC's powerlessness. In 2014, Russia annexed the Crimean Peninsula from Ukraine, claiming that the Russian-speaking people there were being repressed by Ukrainian rule. The United States protested, but the episode highlighted the UN Security Council's powerlessness in the face of permanent members' unchanging positions. Although observers questioned the credibility of the vote, a Crimean referendum to join Russia won in a landslide. The UNSC later voted that Russia had violated humanitarian norms, but did not take action even as fighting erupted and a Malaysian Airlines flight was shot down over Ukraine, allowing Russia's annexation to stand. The episode demonstrated the limitations of UN Security Council's ability to act decisively in such situations. The grim aftermath of the Arab Spring. The Arab Spring initially aimed for political representation, but it ended in brutal chaos that led to a mass exodus of refugees to Europe. By April 2016, around 176,000 refugees entered Europe, mostly through Greece, while millions more were internally displaced. The aftermath of this event has created a lost generation of approximately 13.7 million school dropouts in 4 nations. Ukraine alone lost 800,000 people, with 400,000 relocating to Poland after the Crimean annexation. The refugees that were turned away from the borders have nowhere to go back to. The Refugee Crisis. The recent refugee crisis, largely created by harmful interventions, caused the biggest wave of refugees since World War II. Unfortunately, Europe and the United States didn't handle the situation ideally, with some countries refusing asylum and Hungary even building a fence. The anti-immigrant policies of far-right parties are gaining popularity amidst the crisis, though there are still many citizens and politicians advocating for refugees. While some suggested Western countries should acknowledge their role in creating the crisis, anti-immigrant parties gained power in Germany, Poland, Sweden, and Denmark due to the influx of refugees. The United States accepted a small number of refugees in 2015.
In the volatile landscape of world politics, Perilous Interventions underscores the dangers of military intervention as a solution to complex global problems. By dissecting the United Nations Security Council's decisions and the chaotic aftermath of interventions in various conflicts, the book sheds light on the unforeseen consequences and human toll of these perilous actions. It emphasizes the importance of considering long-term effects and alternative, non-violent strategies for addressing humanitarian crises and promoting democratic change. Ultimately, Perilous Interventions challenges readers to critically examine the complex motivations and ramifications of international diplomacy, and to reflect on the need for more thoughtful and measured approaches in the pursuit of global stability and peace.